Hello, welcome to this Adobe Photoshop CC 2021 Rainbow Eyes tutorial. Before we get started, I want to let you know that Adobe is not yet fully ADA accessible, but we want to make sure that you've got a written step-by-step script both in the Google Drive and in the description. You can always utilize the closed captioning as you watch the video. And of course, if you have any questions, go ahead and please leave me a note in the comments section. So when we create rainbow eyes, what we're doing is introducing blending modes and filters. And it's a really fast, easy way to create a pretty amazing look that doesn't take a lot of effort. So let's go ahead and take a peek at how we do this. We're going to go ahead and go into the Google Drive in our internet browser. And right there, I've got one called Rainbow Eyes for Tutorial that's uploaded. You can do this with any eyeball. You'll also find here some samples of some on your own, some blending mode information, and the step-by-step. Let's go ahead and do a right click and download that Rainbow Eye for Tutorial. I'm going to go ahead and set up a new folder and name it on my desktop. And let's call it Rainbow Eye. And do save. Start that new folder. I usually like to have a new folder. So we've got our rainbow eye, and let's go ahead into our Photoshop. Let's make sure we're all working from the same place. So let's go into our window and come down to Workspace. And I want to make sure I'm in the Essentials workspace, so I'm going to go ahead and reset my Essentials so it all looks exactly the same. All right, so now it's exactly where we want it to be. Let's go up to File in the Applications bar. And let's come down to Open. And let's navigate over to our folder. So mine is on my desktop. Yours might be on a flash drive or something else. And I'm going to go ahead and look at my Rainbow Eyes folder where I have that Rainbow Eyes for Tutorial and say Open. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is save. So let's come up here to a file and come down here to Save As. I'm going to make sure I'm putting it in that Rainbow Eyes folder on my desktop or on your flash drive where you put it. And I'm going to put first initial last name _ Rainbow Eyes. And I want it to be a PSD. I'm going to make sure I'm in my folder and go ahead and say save. All right, JPEG is fine. And we will save it as a PSD in a little bit. Let's go ahead and do our resolution. So let's come up here to image. Let's come down here to image size. And let's see what we've got when we brought this down from pixels. So it's really a really big image and we're not going to use it that big. So let's go ahead and unclick our width and height. Let's go ahead and make that width 8. I'm going to do a tab and another tab and come down to height. Let's make that height 4. I'm in inches. I'm going to go ahead and bump that resolution up to 300 in case I want to use this in a print application. I want my resample to be on, in my preserve details 2.0 to be selected. And I want my reduce noise to be all the way up to 100% and say OK. All right, so now it's going to go ahead and resize that image for us. So it's exactly what we want. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and remove some of that eye strain. So we're going to use the spot healing brush to do that. First thing I'm going to do is select my background layer. Let's go ahead and unlock it. Let's go over to the left-hand side, over to our toolbar, and select the spot healing brush. So it's the one with a band-aid, kind of with a spot by it. And we're going to go ahead and get rid of some of these red bits. So you can adjust the brush size. Mine's about right on right now. So anywhere you want to remove that red, you can just rub over those. You can also use your P, the square brackets over by your P, to go ahead and get rid of some of that eye strain as well. So depending on which one you pick, you may or may not have as much eye strain. When you're happy with it, let's go ahead and push Control S and save. And let's go ahead now and save it as that PSD and save. Yes. All right, so next thing we need to do is add a new layer in order to create our blending mode effect. So let's go ahead to our layers panel over on the right hand side. Come down here to the bottom and we want to add a new layer. We'll go ahead and hit that plus sign and it's going to give us that new layer, layer number 1. So the next thing we need to do is start working on setting up our brush. So let's go over here to our brush tool over on the left-hand side, about a third of the way through. I'm going to click my brush. And now I need to decide, I'm going to need a brush that is about the width of my iris. So let's come up here to my brush options. I want it to be all the way hard. So I want a hard round brush. And you can see you can adjust your size down here. I think I want about 200 or so. See, the black line is showing me how big my brush actually is. I can even go a little bit bigger. Or I can use those plus keys. I do want my opacity, my mode to be normal, my opacity to be 100, my flow to be 100. Just go ahead and click out here to close that brush. So now I need to go ahead and tell it what color I'm going to make. So I'm going to come down to my toolbar to my foreground colors. It's probably set on black and white. So on my foreground, I'm going to double click and it's going to pop up my color picker. And I'm going to go ahead with my mouse and just pick a color of red. Totally up to you what you want to use. Usually brighter colors tend to work a little bit better because we're really going to wash them out later. And let's say OK. So now what we're going to do is we need to go ahead and stamp on, make sure we're on the new layer. So we're on that layer 1. And let's go ahead and stamp a bit of red. And it's okay that it covers things up. That's not a problem at all. So now we're going to continue to go all the way around the iris. So I'm going to go ahead and use my square brackets, bring my brush down just a little bit, come back to my toolbar, and let's go ahead on the rainbow and choose kind of a yellow color and say OK. All right, and let's go ahead and do a yellow. It's just fine if they overlap. All right, let's go ahead and bring that brush down a little bit more. I'm going to come over here. Let's grab an orangish color. Those are kind of awful colors. That's not too bad. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put my orangish color in here. And now let's go ahead. We're going to get bigger again. So let's go a little bit bigger. And let's go ahead and do some type of green. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put my green there. I'm going to go ahead and put maybe blue next. So let's come over here. Let's grab our blue. Let's do a light blue first. Do OK. And let's make that brush just a little bit bigger with those square brackets by your P. All right. Now you could go up here and adjust your size as well. So always remember you've got a couple different ways to go about this. Click up in the bar to make that close. All right, let's do a little bit of a darker blue. So let's grab our darker blue. That one's good. And I'm going to go a little bit bigger. All right. A little bigger still. Oh, way too big. All right, go ahead and put my blue in there. All right, now I'm going to do probably a purple and a pink. It's up to you as to how many colors you're going to do or how you're going to work it. So let's go ahead and let's do kind of that's a good color. All right, and maybe a little bit bigger. All right, so now I've created my rainbow all the way around my eyes. So let's go ahead and do a Control S and save what we've got so far. And now we're going to actually start working with some blending modes to make this start making a little bit more sense. Now the whole reason we had to put this on the additional layers because we are going to blend down. So we're going to go ahead and grab our blending mode. Let's go ahead and come to our layers panel. And the second box down is where it says normal. Let's hit the drop down. And you want to go ahead and hit the one called overlay. You can experiment with all the different types, but for what we're doing today, overlay is perfect. If you do want to explore all of the other types of blending modes, there's a second presentation in that Google folder that you can take a peek at. All right, so I've got it on overlay, and you're thinking, hey, it looks a little weird. We're going to fix it still. Next step is to add a blur. So we're going to come up here to filter, and we're going to come down to blur. About halfway down, and we're going to come over to Gaussian blur, and it's going to say what do we want to blur, and you can see already it's kind of making it look a little bit better. You can bring that down a little bit and kind of decide how many, the smaller the pixel number, the more those edges will be defined. The bigger obviously we start to lose some of the resolution. So I'm going to go ahead and bring mine to about 10 or so. That's not too bad. And say OK. And now I don't really love how that's got a little space here. So I'm going to go back to this layer 1. And maybe I'm going to stamp another pink right here. Ooh, I don't love that. Undo. Control Z will undo. So that is how you create a rainbow eyes effect. It's really very simple. So let's go ahead and do a Control S and save. And now you need to make a second version and on your own. So I want you to go to a stock photo site, a Pixabay, Unsplash, Pexels, and find a second image that you can create a additional rainbow eyes sample right here. Here's some of your student on your own samples. So don't always just think eyeballs. You can use this effect on a lot of different items. So I'm really looking forward to seeing your creativity when it comes to how you're going to apply this rainbow eye effect. Hope you learned a thing or two and you had a little fun. See you later. Bye.